that the leadership of the Democratic Party would be as short-sighted and fiscally irresponsible that they would raid the Budget Stabilization Fund and endanger the state's fiscal status. This fund is commonly known as a rainy day fund. Basically, it's there and it's required by credit agencies to ensure that the debt service on our borrowings will be met during a financial crisis. They like to see 3%. 3% of our budget would be 180 million, up to 12%, which would be 720 million. The state of Maine, believe me, would never see the 720 million. But when we came here as governor, we were on the verge of losing our credit rating. We fought with him, we talked to him, Son Mellett, Bruce Poliquin worked with him, saying, give us a chance, we'll build on it, we'll work on it, we'll build it. We've got it now to about 60 million. $60 million is about 5 days of operating cost. We can run the state for 5 days. They've now cut it to 39 million, which is a little over 3 days of cash. Now, a credit rating is sort of like your credit score, pretty much like your credit score. Many of us, and I'm sure most in this room, work very hard to get their credit score up so they get better credit rating, they get more credit advance, they get the ability, lower interest rates. And what the party has done, what the leadership in Augusta has done, is let's look at your mortgage. Use a mortgage as an example. Your mortgage is $1,000, but because of your irresponsibility with money, the bank raises, you have a variable rate on your mortgage and they raise the rate and your mortgage goes to $1,250 a month. That's what they just did. The state of Maine will be required to pay tens of millions of dollars for an additional interest because we are a higher risk. This is not a slush fund for liberal politicians in an election year to avoid making tough decisions. They were elected to make tough decisions. And what they're doing now is they're cleaning the rainy day fund. They're gonna call it quits with the budget, and they're gonna go home, they're gonna balance the 14 budget to June. They're gonna go home and fiscal 15 will not be balanced, and they're gonna push that on to the next legislature after the elections. That is irresponsible. Frankly, I'll go one step further, it's incompetent. This is not what we're here for. We're not here to worry about November elections. We're here to do what's right for the Maine people. This morning, for instance, electricity rates were 38 cents. Why? Because the people upstairs refuse to help Maine people. I put a proposal of $1 million up to help people with the high heating costs this winter, and President Alford killed it in committee. They're currently debating solar rebates this summer instead of the high cost of energy this winter. This leadership is out of control. We need to fix it. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to put an emergency bill into the legislature. The details are going to come out in a couple days. We have got a way that we can see ourselves through this crisis. We can get the $60 million back into the stabilization fund and sell the bonds. This is a crushing blow to Maine's economy. This will take hundreds of millions of dollars out of the economy this spring. And we can't afford that. We need to have people working. And I will urge everyone in the construction industry to please call your legislators, call your senator, and call the leadership in Augusta. Please, if you want your jobs, you need to call these people and tell them to get responsible. We need these jobs. This is irresponsible behavior. I understand it's a political year, and I understand that they could care less about the status of the economy. They're only concerned about getting elected. But that's not what this is about. This is about people. This is about people that need to heat their homes, feed their families. And we're playing games. So please, call your legislators and your senators and ask them to support the emergency bill being put up by the administration to get the $60 million into the stabilization fund so that I can allow the treasurer of the state to sell the bonds in May. It's desperately needed. And I'll answer any questions.
Governor, what's the funding source of this bond that you are proposing?
That's what we're working on. Solomon and I have been thinking of all kinds of ways to do it. There are some areas where we can cut to get some monies to put it back into the stabilization fund and savings that we can put in the stabilization fund so we can get by up to the 60 million. The worst thing we can do is to lie to credit agencies. And this would effectively mislead what we've told them. We told them to work with, not to downgrade us, to work with us. Since I've been governor, we've been saying, work with us, we're gonna build it, we're in the right direction. Taking the money, taking $21 million out of it, just a month or so before you go to bond market is really misleading you. And that's where the problem is. If we hadn't said it, if we hadn't tried to build the fund, when I came here, we had $3 or $4 million and they were ready to shoot us. Bruce Bolliquin did a miraculous job in convincing them to work with us. They had two or three issues. One was the stabilization fund, the other one was the liability of the hospitals. We worked through and we had a plan, we showed them the plan, they were comfortable. Now they're undoing it all. And that is really not the right thing to do.
Governor, if you feel this strongly about it, excuse me, why didn't you veto the revenue sharing bill?
Because, frankly, I thought they were playing politics. I really thought that they were just playing politics. They were going to, if I vetoed the bill, what they would have done is it would have been sustained by the Republicans, and then they would have turned and said the governor doesn't care about our communities. He doesn't care about property taxes. And so I didn't realize that they'd go to the point of really legitimately robbing the account. I thought that they'd find some other way. I really thought that they look at revenue sharing a little more seriously, education a little more seriously, and welfare a little more seriously. I really think that that's where we can make some major inroads, but they didn't. So now we have to make an emergency plea and ask the help of the Maine people to get our bonds sold.
Governor, even your Republicans, most of whom voted for that revenue sharing bill, they never said that they thought it was just kind of cover to delay time until they found another way to get the money. They supported it too.
Well, if they did, I didn't realize they did, actually. So the Republicans voted for this too? Then, frankly, I hold the entire legislature responsible. And if they did an irresponsible move. But the more important, the two most important people here that should have stopped this are the Speaker of the House and the President of the Senate. And maybe not so much the Speaker of the House because he really doesn't have an economic background. But Justin Alfon, the President of the Senate, has been around business his entire life. And he knows that this was an irresponsible move by the legislature, and he should have called and we should have worked together to stop this. Unfortunately, I was out of town at the time because that's usually when they do these things, when I'm out of town.
Governor,
Yes.
can you give any examples of where the administration is looking to cut to put money back in the rainy day fund?
Solomon's working on it. You're going to have Solomon. He's telling me that he's got some ideas that he can get it done, and so we're hoping it can get done. It's being worked on as we speak. So it's really not cuts as much as savings, we hope.
Democrats are saying that the bill that they had, that the legislature just passed, has a mechanism built into it to replenish the money in the rainy day fund.
Except that we have, yeah, but they're talking about July, we're going to the market in May. When they look at 39 million, and they've seen a lot of promises over the last 45 years from the state of Maine, there's no incentive for them to not downgrade us. Believe me, that is a smoke and mirror. If any of you have studied economics, that is smoke and mirrors at its worst. If you believe that statement, I got a couple of bridges in New York I'd like to sell you, real cheap.
If this bill that you're talking about, Governor, is not successful in the legislature, are you going to stand by
Yes.
your words not to release the bonds?
That is correct. If they do not pass this and they do not care for the economy of the state of Maine, then I will do one thing. I will not do a fiscally irresponsible move because the legislature wants to get reelected. It is not worth it. I cannot tank the state of Maine's credit because of some irresponsible legislators.
The treasurer has said that if we don't release those bonds, due to a financial order your administration signed last June, that she forwarded some money out of the cash pool to get some of these projects started. I mean, what are the ramifications of that on the state's?
I have a plan for that too, and when the time comes, I can deal with that piece of it.
Any details on the plan, sir?
No.
Steve?
Governor, could we go back to this emergency piece of legislation?
Yes.
What are you looking for? Are you looking for 21 million?
That is correct. I'm looking to get to $60 million. And once we get to $60 million, because that's the commitments we've been making, then I think, and frankly, even $60 million is about 1/3 where the state should be at a minimum. It's about 1% of the biennial budget, and their minimum is 3%. But we're hoping that with Solomon and his folks, that he can convince the bond market that we're good for it and that not to take a downgrade. But there's no guarantee we won't get downgraded because these shenanigans don't show very good consistency.
Governor, you've got the Appropriations Committee starting hearings today on supplemental budget, which has a bunch of other cuts in it. Does that, your plan, I
No.
assume, will come on top of it?
No. What we're looking at is totally different what they're doing. I have no idea what they're doing. Everything they've done in the last 2 years, frankly, you haven't seen my fingerprints on. It's been totally, I just don't understand. They don't seek help. They just make some rash decisions that are hurting our state desperately.
Governor, have you received any written notification from Standard & Poor's, Moody's, or any other major bonding house that would indicate that our bond rating could be in jeopardy if we do not replenish this fund?
No. This is what we did. In the last 3 years, we've been working with them. The last year, the last time we had a rating, they looked at us and said, they took us from a negative to a stable because we did what we said we were going to do. And I'll have Solomon, if you'd like to, he can explain that. We said we were going to work on building our rainy day fund, and we were. We have for 3 years now. And we said that we were going to, our goal is to get it up to 3%. This was our goal. By doing what they did, they just undoing everything that we said we were going to do. And so, with 3% being a minimum, if you've ever been involved in selling bonds, we are very, very seriously in serious jeopardy of losing our credit rating. And even if we go to 60 million, there's no guarantees that we keep it because of our inconsistency in our behaviors.
Governor, have you heard from construction firms or industry about the decision to withhold the bonds?
Yeah. I've been talking to people for 2 days now about why it's important that we do it. And you know, it's a very simple sale to businesses when you say, do you run your business with only 3 days cash? Not one person has said yes. I've spoken to about 6 people in the last 2 days, and I've got 3 or 4 more that I'll be calling today. And the question is this: do you run your business on 3 days cash? Because that's what we're doing.
Are they supportive of this plan that I know it's still you're cobbling it together,
Yeah.
but
The people I've spoken to are going to be getting on the phone and encouraging the legislature to approve my plan, pass this bill so that we can sell the bonds. There is no question, folks, and we want these bonds sold. It's vital that we sell these bonds for our economy, particularly this year. But it is irresponsible to do it knowing that you're gonna pay tens of millions of dollars of additional interest when you shouldn't have to. That's the issue. It's a difference between, like I said earlier, $1,000 mortgage or a $1,250 mortgage. There's only a few people that can afford to just take on the higher mortgage.
Governor, I don't remember the details as I stand here, but it was either your first biennial or the supplemental the year after that you used some money from the rainy day fund to balance the budget. I'm curious what's different now from
Because we weren't going to bond at the time, and we knew how we were going to replenish it, because we had the cascade. So we'd already done the math on it. We knew that we were going to be on target. So we replaced it.
Governor, in your opening statement, you said that
What they're doing now, and so they're suggesting they're going to replace it, but they're going to replace it after selling the bonds rather than before you go to bond market. That's the biggest difference.
Governor, in your opening statement, you said you believe the legislature is only going to pass an FY14
Oh, yeah.
supplemental and not a 15. Why do you say that since they're holding public hearings to do both?
No, they're holding public hearings to do both, but they have no mechanism to get the money to get to 15. They can't balance 15. There's just no way. There's only one way they're gonna balance 15. And even the Democrats won't do that, and that's raise taxes this year. And if they raise taxes, I hope they do.
Governor,
Because I don't think that
they're working on it
they're not
now.
that suicidal. Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. go
Governor, if you dislike or disapprove of the supplemental 14, would it be an appropriate strategy to veto that, have your colleagues in the legislature sustain that, and then
The only way-
it'll be up to you to curtail some spending? I mean, couldn't that be your end game?
No. If 14 is balanced, what they're trying to do is take the biennial and split into 2 years. And they're gonna pass one, and then they're gonna punt and go home and go campaign for the next election. And that's really what I think is disheartening to me, because they were elected to do a job, and they're not gonna do it. And unfortunately, I've seen some people that have been getting emails from the Democrats. I got a couple on my desk with, I'm mad and I'm all this. No, I'm not. I'm fiscally responsible. Let me tell you something, and I honestly, truthfully believe this, that the Democratic Party's goal this year is to knowingly and deliberately put out false information to gather votes in November. And I can show you, if you get me Gratwick's flyer and Chris Johnson's flyer, you bring them in and I'll show you where they falsified information. I've read it, I don't have an original. People wouldn't give it to me because their name was on it. But they let me read them. Go look at it. Go get the flyers. Go get the information and dissect it. It is incorrect.
When it comes to the budget, Governor, are you prepared to use any of your authority as governor to, for example, call them into special session this summer, keep them here past their adjournment date? Is that a scenario that's possible?
Oh, very, very possible. If 15 is not balanced, very possible.
Okay, we'll take one more question.
But you would oppose an increase to the cigarette tax?
I oppose any tax increase because they're not necessary. That's the problem. We do not have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And there's a difference between the two. There's a difference, we have certain needs, and we should meet the needs that we have. The wants are different. The wish list is different. Democrats will do anything and spend anything to get votes. And that's a shame, because too many people are getting hurt, particularly children, particularly disabled people, and elderly that are on wait lists, but they're not a big enough client to worry about. They don't vote as much as others.
So Governor, but with so much concern, why did you, I still don't understand why you didn't put a supplemental budget in so that you're in part of the game with it.
Because I'm not part of the game. I haven't been part of the game for 2 years. They took a biennial budget that was balanced. It was balanced, and there were some tough decisions made. They undid all the decisions, and they waffled, and they brought out smoke and mirrors, and they're doing this and that and the other thing. It was never balanced. So why would I put in a supplemental budget when the day that I vetoed it, it wasn't balanced? So you're asking me to put a supplemental in on their work that wasn't balanced in the first place. It was never balanced. They said, they left here with a $75 million hole. They said the administration's gonna go find 33 million and the legislature will find 40. The administration found its share. The legislature did not find theirs. They still are missing $40 million. So it wasn't balanced when I vetoed it. It wasn't balanced when they came back, and they still haven't found their $40 million to balance their budget. The 126 legislative budget has not been balanced by the legislature. But the governor's budget that he sent up was balanced. There were some tough decisions in there. I will absolutely plead guilty to having made some tough decisions to balance the budget. I plead guilty to that. But I do not and will not take responsibility for a budget that was cannibalized and it was never balanced.
Good, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Oh, one more.
No,
No?
no, we're good.
God, I hate it when a woman tells me that no. It's like my wife. Thank you all.
Thank you.